Alright, time to get back to OA, where it began, or I guess.
That's how it started.
And yeah, this is mostly a boss-only level. You will not really have to do much of a challenging. You will mostly have to confront Amon Sur here.
So basically, it's
I wanted the raid, damn it.
So basically, it's True 53 from Sonic Advance 2. Okay.
And I also get the idea that Steve Blum is actually trying to make the character believable, but it's not. Sorry, Steve, I love you, but you're just wasting your time here.
I think I've yet to see a performance of Steve's where he isn't giving it his all.
Don't think so, Amon. You forget.
So I will actually have to think about it, considering there's such a fuck ton of them.
Honestly, Jova, I think his role as the leader of the Orange, as the Oracle in the Orange Clan in Indigo Prophecy was not his best, I will say.
Oh, well, okay, to be fair...
Maybe he was actually badly directed by David Cage.
And to be fair,
yeah,
Pedro...
Well, David Cage can't direct, so yeah.
Also, Pedro, consider the script he was working with. A David Cage script. Like, I have yet to see any actor... Okay, to be fair, Connor...
Clancy Brown did work fine, I argue.
Clancy Brown and...
Although, to my credit...
Our headcanon seemed to be that those sequences were directed by different people,
yeah.
So it might be because of that.
Yeah, it might be.
Remember, the game had co-writers, but David was still directing on his own.
But to be fair, though, the fact that they might have written scenes other than him does go into that. I'm talking about the writing, not always the directing, okay? Because David Cage is... Okay, he's still a horrible director, but... I guess what I'm saying is that his directing, bad as it is not as bad as his writing from what I have seen. God help me. That said, though, like I said, though, I'm not gonna fault Steve... Okay, I do wonder if Indigo Prophecy was Steve Blum actually trying to make heads or tails of what exactly the hell he was supposed to be. And I'm still trying to figure it out, and it's been like, what, 5 years since we commentated on that game? Jesus Christ.
Honestly, even with Shiro's share play of it, like you can still argue it was a bit, not understandable.
Actually, it was Dwebs that share played the Indigo Prophecy.
Right. So Shiro was Detroit. My bad.
Oh yeah, Shiro's the.
That actually reminds me though. Phil. You know one thing, get around to adding Indigo Prophecy, the original Xbox version, because that's still the best version for the record, to backwards compatibility. Maybe we could do a redo of that sometime.
I forget. Why is that the best version?
It's the one that looks the best and of the original free released versions, and the recent remaster is, let's just say, it's a bad PC port. That's all I'll say.
Anyway, now finally after this first horde, you're gonna be able to fight Amon Sur more directly.
Basically, Jova, well, technically we could just do the PS2 version that's on PS4. The problem is the PS2 version has a grainy filter on it for whatever reason, which is not present in the Xbox and PC versions. I'm guessing it's because the PS2 was the weaker of the consoles of that gen. Maybe it was necessary for hiding the deficiencies of the PS2. I don't know. Like, it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's also dependent on the current the current owner of VIP, which for Indigo Prophecy is Atari of all people.
Don't worry, Theo. Remember, the game's rights have been both in terms of owning and IP publishing have been reverted back to Quantum Dream. Quantum Dream fully owns and can publish the game on its own at this point. All they have to do is all Phil has to do is go to Quantum Dream and say, so guys, we wanted to put the original Xbox version of this on the library. You guys okay with that? And they're like, oh, sure. And that's all it takes to. It will be very easy to put that in. Atari's publishing rights for Indigo Prophecy have expired a long time ago, Theo, by this point. Remember, the original release of the game was back in 2005, so 15 years ago, actually. More than 15 years ago at this point.
Okay, it says here that Quantic Dream self-published only the PS4 version. The actual remaster is actually self-published by this Aspyr company, who I don't know.
Yeah, that's because Asper developed the master himself. Basically, it was a deal that Asper made to re-put the game on it. But technically, Quantic Dream, it was basically a partnership more than anything, too. But
we seem to be specialized in for porting. We did some Switch portings, and currently we have been done a couple of the re-releases of some Star Wars games.
Basically, the remaster was put on both PC and mobile devices. And the PC port has a problem with like resolution. Basically, you should play it windowed and not full screen, because if you go full screen, the game glitches.
Of course,
it's a mess. Basically, my guess is they made the game for mobile screens, and the PC port is a sloppy # port.
It's frustrating, really. PC ports should, by law, be the best versions because PC are the most powerful, but even to this day, for some reason, game companies don't think to, optimize them for the PC, except for Cyberpunk 2077, which ironically is the opposite.
That's because
the game was made for PC first.
Yeah, CD Projekt Red has a history of working better just for mostly PC exclusive. I mean, wrong. The second Witcher Effect actually was ported also to the Xbox 360s, and Witcher 3 had the console releases, but we mostly worked better on a PC build. Bullshit much. Whatever floats your boat, Amon. Also, stop hiding behind your shield and fight me. Fuck's sake.
It's also that's exactly it, Joe. The same thing happens with Platinum, where the best way to play Nier Automata is on both either the Series S/X or the PS5. Not so much the PC, because as typical with Platinum, their PC ports are a bit dodgy. It's not the same thing with Bayonetta and Vanquish.
Yeah, it's weird because those two actually were.
But those were made by Sega of Europe too. Not Platinum.
Keep letting you down.
Remember, they're Sega IPs.
Did we actually had the new on them? I forgot.
They do. Remember, Sega Europe always puts.
Yeah, that's why I was questioning it, but whatever.
Let's see what you can do, Amon.
All right, let's finally get to fight him.
Sure you will.
Well, okay, I guess. Never mind. Again, most of his fight hinges on the fact that Al can counter the yellow energy pretty easily, which is iffy.
Don't you see? Hal has the willpower.
Again, it worked better in first flight, but because he needed so much build-up in order to work, and it did require a lot of cost and a lot of sacrifice to attain that. Here, nope, Al can just willpower enough just because.
He's got the power!
If anything, this particular bit reinforces again the idea of how special Hal Jordan is, even though it makes no sense at all.
Like, okay, if I'll give the movie some credit, Hal legit had to think outside the box with defeating Parallax. It wasn't just a simple, oh, he can overpower him. No, he had to actually trick him and then use literally the sun's gravitational might to pull him in. And even still, he nearly died as a result.
Mm-hmm. Ow. Gone.
Whereas here, well, it's obviously going to be more of a curb stomp.
Also, this fight tends to be a bit annoying because, there you go, Amon tends to concentrate his attack in a very high frequency, so it leaves actually very little room for actual attacking, and it doesn't get stunned from your hits too often. So you need to actually have a good, reflect timing in order to, when we actually understand when he might be trying to attack after your combo, because if you just try to mash button, you will get nowhere. Well, actually, you will get somewhere, but you'll be dead, so... And this fight actually has multiple, like 1 or 2 extra phases after this. So thankfully the game has, kind of checkpoints in between phases. So it is generous enough, if I recall. What are you? Who are you? Shinnok now? Seriously? Yeah, I don't get this either. Like, especially because for having the power of fear, you sure are not using it to make constructs and everything that should instill the fear inside Hal Jordan.
Seriously, Scarecrow was a better Yellow Lantern than him.
Ooh, yes, Pedro?
You know, I know it's not Shinnok Tail, but still, like, you know what they say. This is not a brutality. It's a
This is a fatality.
Oh! Or, as Injustice calls it, a super
heroic brutality, Jova.
Yeah,
which is
heroic
stupid.
brutality.
No,
Well,
but the Pedro was specifically referring one of the endings of MK4. Only the time, Jova.
To be fair, I can at the very least understand the idea of having Superman have heroic fatalities instead of having him tear somebody's head off.
No, even so, the finishers in MK versus DC universe were toned down clearly because the Warner Bros. And DC were not still used to the idea of having DC characters handled by people like Ed Boon and his team. So we were afraid. So we decided to tone down. In some cases, outright censor, like Joker's fatality. It's super infamous for this case. But more recently, they actually did the mellow down because the finishers in both Injustice games are actually much more on point, despite not being, actual fatalities. And Joker eventually got included in MK11, which means he can get gored by literally everyone. So
yeah,
there's
that was the issue. Like, as long as they kept only the heroes having heroic fatalities, I would have been fine with it. It's mostly when they do stuff with the Joker.
well, okay. If it's any consolation, even though it's called a heroic brutality, the Joker's heroic...
No, Java. Heroic brutalities work only for the good guys.
Exactly.
The villains for DC actually still get labeled as fatalities. The problem relies on, for MK versus DC universe, the core problem relies, on still the execution. Even the MK characters' fatalities are a bit more played safe. Most of them are their actual classics for MK1, but that's it. There's no much flavor to them. It's very basic. It showcased that when MK9 actually came out and it still had some of the classic fatalities in it, they still had a bit more, personality to them in order to make them stand out rather than just copy-paste from the first game, or transported into with 3D models and all. Also, can you stop with the hands, please? Ow. Yeah, your best bet is using the missile during these fights because, again, it can lock on multiple targets, it can actually stun lock, potentially Amon Sur, so it can actually give you an idea on when to start a combo, but it drains a lot of your green meter, so, again, you have to decide how to use it and when. Yeah. Also, when he's actually activated, in this second phase, when he activates that glowing phase, that phase where he's glowing and he's, instead of just walking, he's floating, it's basically kind of not invulnerable, but again, you cannot actually stun it at all, meaning that you have to be careful and stay as far away from it as possible. But at that point, he will activate instead his own missile barrage, and if you don't block enough, you're fucked. Again, there is an actual strategy to this fight, but it's more leaning towards the annoying side than towards the, oh cool, let's try to see if I can beat this challenge type of, side. Yeah. And yes, that's what the hands do if they catch you.
Skeleton
There we go.
hands. Finally, something spooky.
Not really.
How can you still live? What will it take to destroy you once and for all?
Alright, final phase, and it's probably the more pathetic, as you will see in a second.
Shall we settle this in a band of fisticuffs?
Yes, but not properly. No, not like in a Metal Gear game or Death Stranding. No. We'll need to actually play rock and bottom with constructs.
Yes.
Ring, now would be a good time to give me everything you and the Guardians got.
And we just do.
So how? You do mean that power-up that
Sorry,
you've been
Jova,
using
the ring has
throughout
stopped
the...
talking to Hal a long time ago.
So how? You mean that power-up I've been giving you frequently
And
throughout
there
the
you go.
game?
You just need to essentially mash the square button and you're kinda good to go. There's no real challenge to this fight. Sure, we're trying to make it pass like there's a triangle, rock, paper, scissors style of counters that you have to be careful about. But you can just mash the square button and you're good to go. This is scripted as fuck.
I will never understand games that feel the necessity to literally script what could be literally the most awesome things.
Again,
I
it's style over substance. I get the idea to make things, oh, look at how cool this piece is, but like if there is no actual substance to it, you just need to match the button, make it a QTE at that point. I'm actually more okay with that.
Also, oh no, there are Manhunters shooting at us too, draining our health.
Again, it's trying to showcase how more chaotic the fight is going, and showcase the fact it's not just you two fucking around. So I appreciate the idea behind it, but it's just looking very a bit on paper. So.
And one of those guys is blatantly missing the giant green mech in front of him.
Especially since he needs to destroy the pilot. Alright, now you actually get a QTE for the final bit, but wanted to showcase what happens if you failed. Boop. No. Ding. There we go, just by punching him hard enough, it's enough to destroy him.
You're finished,
Of
Amon.
course.
Knee snap.
Nah, that would have been too cool. It's just chopping in half like that.
Well,
It's weird.
okay, making a green buster sword is not too bad either.
Sorry, Amon Sur, you're in your timeout zone.
Is it over?
For now.
Alright, time for the ending, which is probably is going to be a very lackluster.
I love how they
actually. It's
say-
basically a quick summation, essentially.
I love how they say it's the ending even though there's clearly a battle still going on in the background.
Help save the universe.
Because, Manhunters...
In your debt, but so are we. We thank you for your service.
As ever, I serve. the
You
cause of
owe
justice.
me.
Killowog, you endured great suffering on Biot, yet your loyalty to the core never wavered. May your strength inspire your comrades. Thank you.
Just doing my job.
May the force
And
be
as
with
for
us.
you, Hal,
You're
on
fired.
Earth, we have never had a Green Lantern, shall we say, quite as difficult as you. You question our every word. You challenge
As you
our every
should,
command.
because you're a bunch of pompous idiots.
Honestly, it's only really when House started joining that you guys
Alright,
actually...
what does Hal has to say in response to this?
What say you?
Oh!
No.
At least it will be something, Graves. Instead, it's a word for it's again another word for war recital of the Green Lantern oath. It's cheesy, and I get the idea behind it. It's just that this ending is so lame, much like with most of the story of the game.
So
And that's it.
So what say you, Hal Jordan? I'ma just recite the mantra. I guess
That's it.
that's his way of saying
No.
yes.
There's no post-credit scene.
I
There's
guess
no.
the writer ran out of ideas.
Marv Wolfman, that's the problem. Marv Wolfman is a talented writer, but has such a huge resume behind him. He's not the kind of guy who will sleep into something like this. I don't understand.
Okay.
What happened
You know what
here?
my guess is? Time constraints.
Most likely, like I said, in order to meet the deadline for the movie. And again, to give it credit, Double Helix did their best to make the game as much as entertaining and optimal as they could. It's just that it wasn't, sadly enough. I haven't tried the G.I. Joe game they did, but we did see how Terminator Salvation was green. We did see, I think this is something else already from them, but I can tell you for a fact that Strider 2014 is actually really good as a title. And the work that we did for the Killer Instinct revival actually was very commendable. But whatever. Final thoughts, Lives.
It's a game. It's got Green Lantern in it. I
Are you
mean,
agreeing with it?
no. Not really,
Damn
no.
it.
I mean, okay, it's not bad. It's just kind of there, just like the movie.
Would you say it's better, worse, or on par with the movie?
Say on par. A lot of pretty stuff, but doesn't leave much of an impression, and you forget about it.
All right.
It's like, well, everything related to the movie is there. No wonder this. No wonder the Green Lantern thing as a whole, at least in this incarnation, didn't really take off.
What about the voice acting? What do you think of Ryan Reynolds trying to be Hal in this one?
I mean, most of the time he's fine. It's just there's other times where you could have another take.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, aside from that, it's all just kind of there, really terrible, but not great even.
All right, Java.
It's a fine game, but it's clearly a game held back by the usual time constraints that come with making a licensed tie-in game. It has good enough gameplay, but it could be better. The music clearly did not have enough time put into it, but you know what?
They saved it only for the credits, like now.
I know, right? Okay, there are definitely a few bursts where the music actually is pretty good, but for the most part it seems to go for your typical generic atmospheric tone here and there. The graphics are fine. The story has ups and downs, but unfortunately it just kind of peters out at the end. Again, I'm willing to peg this on the limited time structure behind this project here and there. So, yeah, overall, it's a game that is very much the sum of its own parts here and there. It has good. It doesn't really have bad stuff except for a few things, but it has some mediocre things. So overall, it's a fine game. Definitely not something worth full price, but, you know, at a lower price, it's fine.
Pedro.
Next.
I don't really have much to add, really. It just looks average, to be honest. Like, there's not that much to say. The music is barely noticeable. The graphics are fine. The gameplay seems fine enough for what it is, I guess. Even though there's some cheap stuff at hand. The story is dumb, but we've already talked about, you know, time constraints, all that stuff. And yeah, that's about it, really. It's there. It exists, I guess, but it's not offensive. But I'm not gonna lose sleep over it's not re-releasing as well. So,
Clearly, this is the one that needs a remaster the most.
that's about it, really. There's very little to say about this game, to be honest with you. It's just
Alright.
your generic licensed game.
Alright, Tio, take us away.
Alright, no, like I said, this is mostly only potential, but it's not expressed properly. The only thing that makes it passable is the fact that there is some genuine effort in trying to spice up the gameplay, and the performance for the most part is optimal, which is more than I could say for stuff like Thor: God of Thunder. So there is that. The problem is that it's still drowning a sea of mediocrity when it comes to the plot and the characters. Thor: God of Thunder, at the very least, tried to spice up the story, being a prequel to the movie and adding more to the mythos. This one tries a bit to do the same thing, and it has talent behind it. Again, Mark Woolman, but it just doesn't have enough of that spark. The only variety that we get is with the planet of the Star Sapphires, and that's pretty much it. And even then, it still succumbs to a lot of the formulas of this game, sadly. Also, Geoff Johns was a chief creative officer. What were you doing, buddy?
Weird.
But again, the voice acting is fine for the most part, but you can tell there are the occasional pieces where Ryan Reynolds actually didn't do a double take, and they just kept him what he said, despite how not fitting it was. But again, I still could believe that it would work, could work as Hal Jordan, and who knows if DC wants to ever revisit this Earth incarnation, but I severely doubt that at this point. But yeah, much like Pedro said, it's a licensed game. At the end of the day, it just came, it went away, and that's pretty much it. I still hope one day we'll actually get another solo Green Lantern game, one that actually can have people enjoy it, properly. But it's clearly not in the foreseeable future. So see ya for whatever DC stuff will do next.
See ya.
See ya.